Okay, all right. Welcome to our to BDNA's general and board meeting of April 2023. It's nice to see all your faces. Let's go through the agenda very quickly and then we'll launch the meeting proper. First, we will ask board members present to introduce themselves, followed by residents and other visitors. If we have representatives from Black Futures Farm, Master Gardeners, or Woodstock Library, we'll ask them to speak and tell us what's going on. We are expecting a special guest, Chris Irick, owner-operator of Pistachio Paints. But let me see, 2 people have entered the waiting room. Let me see, yes, here is Chris Irick. Welcome, Chris. And here's Gail Keeley joining us. Welcome, Gail. I'm just going over the agenda now, those of you who have just joined, and I was just mentioning that our special guest, Chris Irick, is going to tell us about Pistachio Paints. This is part of our forum called Exploring Brentwood Darlington. And then we expect to have a presenter tell us about the Multnomah County capital gains tax. Is one of the people who's here now that presenter? Oh, okay. Nathan Clark. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much. We're really eager to hear this. All right. Then we'll go into some announcements of public interest. That should use up the hour. Then we'll go into board business. You're all welcome to stay for board business. Some of it's boring. You know, we're going to approve minutes and treasurer's report, but some of it's very interesting. So if you'd like to stay, you wouldn't be bored completely out of your mind then. All right, so we'll have minutes, treasurer's report, some other reports, a request to approve 2 policies, and then as time permits, we'll report on some other matters that have been happening here in the neighborhood. And then we have added to our list of other business. Okay, very fine. All right, let's go back to the beginning here. And I am going to share, I didn't share screen, so you couldn't see the agenda. So in the future, when I sound like I'm sharing something, point out to me that I am not sharing it. All right, so, and you can help me. I'll stop sharing in a moment, but here's the agenda. This is what it looks like. Let's begin with board introductions, and I'm going to stop sharing so we can see one another. Kim DeLeo, why don't you go first? Name your, go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Kimberly DeLeo, she, her pronouns. I'm a member of Brentwood Darlington since 2015. I've lived in the neighborhood. I joined the board 2 years ago. And are we doing hobbies and interests?
Well, what motivates you to serve on the board?
Oh. I thought that maybe now that I was done with my home remodel, it was time to become more involved in my local community.
Oh, okay, fine.
So being involved and trying to help out in some way motivates me.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, Casey, would you say your full name and what is your primary motivation for serving on the board?
I am Casey Carlton. I have been in this neighborhood for just a few years, just been on the board very recently. My motivation for being on the board is because my lovely neighbor asked me to be a shoe-in vote for her. And so here I am.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
You got it. Anything. Anything for you.
I'm going to remember that. And I have witnesses that you've said that now. All right.
No, I'm being recorded. I know.
Pam, hi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Pam Hodge, she, her pronouns. I have lived for about 27 years in Brentwood, Darlington, on the very southern boundary, 58th and Harney Drive. And I have been serving since October as the treasurer of BDNA, and I also serve on the project advisory committee with the city planners conducting the Lower Southeast Area Rising Study, where Brentwood Darlington is the core focus area. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that later in the meeting, and that's me.
Okay, very fine. Thank you, Pam. Gail, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm a dinosaur, she, her pronouns. And I'm on the board because I live here.
Okay, wonderful. And we're really glad to have you. We're delighted that you live here. Derek, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm a board member at large, and I've lived in the neighborhood to 2012. My pronouns are he, him, and what else can I tell you? I think I've got a new land use chairperson, Eric Weiskopf, and that's it anyway. So that's my introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. Laura Lee, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Laura Lee. I have been in Brentwood Darlington for about 10 years now. I'm secretary on the board, and what motivates me is keeping up to date with everything that's happening in our neighborhood, because even in the 10 years that I've been on here, been in the neighborhood, there's been a lot of changes and there's a lot more coming up, and I want to know firsthand.
Okay, very fine. Thank you, Laura Lee. Let's see, Vivian Shung has not joined us yet. She generally joins us a bit later. Moham will not be joining us tonight, and I have sad news that she will not be continuing with the board. And I will introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Frederick. I've lived here for almost 7 years now, and I've been on the board for almost 7 years. I've been chair since last October, but before that, for nearly 3 years, I was land use chair. And I'm serving on the board because I feel that the neighborhood association can do a lot for the well-being of our neighborhood. And I also want to see neighborhood associations gain in stature and influence. We once, as we learned at the board, at the retreat, we once had a good deal of influence and professional stature, and I feel that we deserve to be back at that level again. All righty, so let's make the rounds of our visitors. London, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is London Howell Farley, and I joined this neighborhood back in 2021 after graduating college, but I am a Greater Portland metro area native. I'm passionate about the safety and planning of our neighborhood, as I am a civil engineer in training. So yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome, London. Let's see, Tina Bjornstad Zafansky. Introduce yourself.
There we go. I'm Tina, and I've been part of Brentwood Darlington off and on since 1999, 2000, something like that. Anyways, maybe even before that. I've been part of the board in the past. I'm not right now, but I am a community member that steps up. I proposed the electronics recycling and spring green kind of event that we did on April 1st. I also proposed and head up with Gail, the board member, our crafting circle on the second and fourth Thursday of the month at the community center. I believe as community members, whether we're part of the board or not, we have the opportunity to take an active role to make our community and our neighborhood what we want it.
Thank you very much, Tina. And we appreciate all the work that you donate to Brentwood Darlington. So may we hear from Kurt Abe?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kurt Abe, and I've been in the neighborhood since June 28th of 2021. So coming up soon on 2 years. And you know, I believe in building strong community means getting to know your neighbors and knowing what's happening in the association. And so thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. That we look forward to getting to know you. May we hear from Austin Dienhart?
Hi. So I'm Austin Dienhart. Can you mute that? Sorry, I'm Austin Dienhart. I'm partners with London Howell Farley, so I had her mute her mic because it was echoing. I've also been here since June 2021-ish. So about 2 years, coming up on 2 years in a couple months. Interested in finding ways to get involved in the community and seeing what a neighborhood association does, because I'm new to being involved in the neighborhood. Yeah, this is my first meeting attending the full time. I hopped in one a month ago or so, but missed most of it. So yeah.
Okay, well, welcome. Yeah, it's good to have you. Nathan Clark, can you introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Clark. I'm going to be presenting tonight regarding the upcoming capital gains tax measure in the May ballot. A little about me. I live in the North Tabor neighborhood with my partner and our pups. And I've been in Portland for about 25 years. So quite a long time. And then before that, I actually served on the Kearns Neighbor Association board.
Oh, very fine. Thank you. We look forward to your presentation then. Okay, so we don't have anyone from Black Futures Farm, Master Gardeners, or Woodstock Library. So we'll go straight to our forum called Exploring Brentwood-Darlington. We have special guest Chris Irick, who's the owner-operator of Pistachio Paints. And we would like to learn all about pistachio paints, Chris. So why don't you speak up? If you want to show something, a photograph or something, please feel free to share screen. So welcome, Chris. Are you there?
You're muted, Chris.
Sorry, first Zoom meeting.
Oh, really?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, Chris Irick here, Pistachio Paints. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. This is a really cool thing you guys are doing here. A little bit about Pistachio Paints. We've been in business for 10 years. We come from a fine arts background, graduating from PNCA back in 2005. We transitioned from canvases to houses. The term boutique contractor has been used to describe our work. I don't know how that goes. I had some questions about the company. The name Pistachio Paints, where it came from. And it just popped in my head one day back in 2013. And it was more like it was floating around and like my antenna hit it. And I was like, oh, there it is.
Okay,
and,
good enough.
What's that?
I said that's good enough reason.
Yeah, and so then instantly the name brought like a relaxing green color to my mind's eye. And I thought, well, if this happens to me, maybe it happens to other people. And perhaps it could spark interest or at least ask a question. The only other reference to the name is with pistachios with me is eating pistachios to stay awake on long drives.
Oh, okay, very fine. And over what area do you conduct your business?
So Pistachio Paints LLC is a lead certified company, and we serve the Portland metro area with occasionally getting projects at the Oregon coast. We focus mainly on interior and exterior new and restoration paint projects. So essentially small commercial and mainly residential.
Small commercial and residential, okay. So would you like me to bring up your websites?
Yeah, there's websites.
Okay, let me do that so that we can share that and people can see your beautiful website.
Oh, thank you. Okay. There was a question that was sent to us asking us about our website. A question about more interesting the job, the better the fit slogan we have. So we typically like working on projects with character and often give jobs names to personify them to make them more interesting. While our bread and butter is restoration projects, we occasionally get projects like painting murals, lettering, and sign making, which also fits into the slogan, more interesting the job, the better the fit slogan. Thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
It's a gorgeous website. And
you're amazing.
And you paint, you certainly stay within the lines when you paint. Very beautiful detail work there.
Longer road to that than you would imagine.
I beg your pardon, say it again.
Staying within the lines,
yes,
was a longer road than you can imagine.
Oh,
over here.
Beautiful colors. So when you work with the clients, do you suggest colors to them?
Yeah, we have a consultation. We do a lot of color consultation.
And what are the popular colors right now?
Right now, a popular color, like a flat Swiss coffee from Benjamin Moore. That's a very popular color for relaxing rooms. Top of my head.
I've been seeing a lot of houses that are kind of a dark blue gray, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's to blend in with the atmosphere of Portland, the weather.
Oh, I see. Okay. Uh-huh. And do you get a lot of business within Brentwood Darlington, would you say?
We do a lot of work in Northeast, but we typically get at least 1 or 2 projects in the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you see the neighborhood changing in the last few years?
Yeah, I've seen some changes.
Uh-huh. Do those changes bring you more business?
I don't know how to quantify. I don't know how I can't figure that out.
Oh yeah, okay, fine.
It's kind of consistent. Like we've sort of had 1 or 2 projects in the neighborhood per year. And fingers crossed we have 1 or 2 projects this year, but none are lined up as of now.
Uh-huh. Okay, very fine. All right. So Laura Lee, you have a question?
I have a question, and it looks like somebody asked my question in the chat, which is awesome. Well, first of all, I wanted to tell you that the color that I was thinking about painting my house, I've been telling people is pistachio. And so I think that that's really funny. It's the inside green color that I was thinking about for the exterior of my house. But I have siding. So in the chat, looks like Kurt asked, do you do siding repair as well as paint? Some of my siding has, small gaps in it. Is that something that your company takes on when you give consultations?
Yeah, typically that would fit within the prep portion. Siding, so we get a lot of dry rot because of the nature of Portland. And so sometimes we'll have to remove portions of siding or trim and then replace that and prep and paint it.
Okay, very fine. Thank you. Okay, Kim, you have your hand raised.
Hi, thank you. I think you mentioned that you also did murals. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And if so, could you maybe elaborate on that? And have you done any, for like community projects or kind of things like that? Or where can we see that work?
Typically, most of that work is private. I've done a couple of basements for people. I've never been publicly approached for a mural. But again, twice a year, we'll get a mural for a basement project or an accent wall or something.
Okay, very fine. But you could be publicly approached for a mural?
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that.
Okay, very fine. All right. And the background of your room has an interesting shape to it. The pink, is that painted on, the pink shape on the wall?
It is painted on. Embarrassingly to say, it's a mid-project.
Oh, I thought it was deliberate. Oh, okay.
Well,
it's a nice shape. Very nice shape.
We've had some issues with these older houses. This house is 100 and something years old. And after about 100 years, the paint stops sticking.
Oh, interesting. Okay, very fine. All right. Well, Chris Irick's website is pistachiopaints.com. So if you want to go and have another look at these wonderful photographs, you can find them right there. Are there any other questions for Chris? Okay, well, we will stop here then. And thank you very much for presenting to us. It's good to know about you being in the neighborhood, and we're delighted to know about you. We'll put a write-up about you in our takeaway that we send out to our mailing list and post on our website. And thank you very much. And it's lovely to know that you're right here in our neighborhood.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. It was a pleasure. Okay, so next on the agenda is a presentation by Nathan Clark. He's going to tell us about something we are going to be seeing on our ballots in May, and that is a proposed capital gains tax for Multnomah County. Go ahead, Nathan. Okay.
Thank you. Let me just get this set up here. Give me a second.
Take your time.
Can everybody see my screen all right?
I can. How about the rest of you?
Yay.
Okay, fine.
Perfect. All right. So like I said earlier, my name is Nathan Clark. I use he, him pronouns. I live in the North Tabor neighborhood. I like to give a little spiel about me because it makes it more fun when you're hearing about taxes for 20 minutes. So I'm a dog owner and I love to woodwork, do yoga, rock climb, and garden. And I've been working as a consultant and in local politics here for about 8 years now. And so I'm here to talk about the coalition we've put together to oppose the upcoming capital gains ballot measure, which will be 26-38. So we feel this is the wrong tax at the wrong time. So measure 26-38, which so this was put on by the Citizens Initiative process, which means that they went out and did signature collecting, got it certified by the county. Now it's on our election. Measure 26-38 is supported by Eviction Representation for All, which was a coalition that was formed by the Democratic Socialists of America, Portland chapter, and other tenant advocacy groups. The policy and purpose of the measure is that Multnomah County shall fully fund, administer, manage, and maintain a program that provides free legal representation and related tenant services and resources to all residential tenants who are facing legal proceedings to evict them from their residence. So that's kind of the main policy that they're going for. So what it will fund is it will create a new, I'm sorry, I have to keep moving my my screen of people around so I can see this. So I apologize for my delay on that. So this is going to create a new office that will be managed by Multnomah County to provide attorneys for tenants facing eviction and eviction prevention programs, including emergency rent assistance. However, this program that's proposed in Measure 26-38 is different from most other eviction prevention programs around the country and what currently already exists in the state of Oregon, because there's no income eligibility requirements for tenants. So anybody who has an eviction, even if they're a millionaire, they would be able to qualify for a free lawyer through the county. It's also available to any person facing eviction or removal from their residence, even those with no legal right to occupy a property. So for example, if you owned a property that was maybe being renovated, and you had some folks move in that were not allowed to be there, under this measure, they would then get legal representation if you tried to remove them from your property. We feel that this is an unnecessary and a redundant tax because the Metro Supportive Housing Services tax already funds renter protection programs. More than $100 million in supportive housing service funds is allocated to Multnomah County every year for housing programs, including eviction prevention. Multnomah County helped over 9,300 renters stay in their homes in the last 18 months. And the supportive housing services funds have supported 537 households by providing them with legal services through the Oregon Law Center in 2022. So I mentioned earlier, we already have eviction representation in the state through the Oregon Law Center, but that one is means tested. I believe if you make, I know if you make over a certain amount, I believe it's 70,000 a year, you would get free representation. They also offer services and supports for folks who wouldn't meet that threshold, but are needing assistance. We feel that the last thing that we need is another tax, which will be burdened on local residents and small businesses. All Multnomah County residents will pay this tax. Every Multnomah County resident is subject to this tax regardless of income, amount of gain, or ability to pay. So there's no income thresholds or brackets for the tax itself. Payment is required beginning with the first dollar of any gain. There's no exemption for small family-owned businesses. There's no protection for proceeds from the sale of your home. And there's no protection for taxable retirement savings accounts. So for those last two, for example, if you need to pull out of your IRA early in the event of an emergency, you would have to pay capital gains on that. And federally, your house, you do not have to pay capital gains on the sale of your home. Federally, if you don't make a profit of over $250,000 for a single person and $500,000 for a family. But locally, they did not write an exemption into the measure. So you would owe a county capital gains on any profit that you make selling your residence. And folks who may have been, if anyone's following this, not a lot of folks are, but if you follow this in the news, that's being hotly debated right now because the proponents of this bill say that they modeled it off of the federal guidelines from the IRS, and that was their intention, but they didn't put that in the measure. So they're saying that they hope the county would fix it if passed. We're saying it shouldn't, if you're going to have that, it should be in the measure when voters pass it. There should not be ambiguity on if you would pay a tax on your house sale or not. So in addition to that, small businesses will pay because in Multnomah County, most small and medium-sized businesses are taxed on a business owner's personal tax return, and capital gains are included when determining the amount owed. So we had an analysis done in February from Perkins & Co., which is a local finance firm. So they said that if the ERA, which is the eviction representation for all, capital gains tax passes, a Portland small business owner may face an all in-state and local tax rate of 26.2%, which would then put us second highest in the country behind New York City. They also have a capital gains tax to provide eviction representation, but that is for folks who make over $1 million or more. But this one that's on the ballot here in Multnomah County does not have an income threshold. Combined with federal income taxes, the typical small business owner could pay 67% tax rate. Wow. We've had folks ask, what about big businesses? The only exception in Measure 26238 is that big corporations won't pay. This will fall on small business owners, middle-class families, and seniors will pay. Big corporations won't because it's based off of where you live. So our large corporations, the people who own them or paying the taxes on them don't live here. So then they're not going to pay. But somebody who lives here is going to pay on that. I know that's the distinction that exists there. Oops, sorry, I went ahead. Seniors, if a senior needed to sell their home to downsize, relocate to a more affordable area, pay for healthcare, end-of-life costs, this tax would impact them. They would retain less proceeds on the sale of their home due to this tax. I know, for example, my parents, their house is their nest egg. So when they retire, that's a big deal. So they would have to be paying a lot more on that if this measure passes. And we know that a lot of families in our community are relying on the sale of their homes, especially ones who've lived here for a long time, for retirement. Like I said earlier, all homeowners will have to pay this tax when they sell their home, regardless of their income, reducing the amount of equity homeowners have. And then we have a quote here. So the backers of this measure have said, if the feds are offering a deduction on that, that means it won't be taxed within this measure. And that was in the last week, told K2 on March 15th, but there is nothing actually written in the measure that would preclude that. And this is here, I will make sure I send this to Stephanie, but if anyone wants to scan our QR code, this is the full 5-page analysis from Perkins & Co. And I'll make sure I send that and our handout to Stephanie to disseminate to folks. But the things that really popped out there was that this, in general, capital gains taxes are volatile, cumbersome, and costly. And due to the seemingly simplistic nature of the taxes proposed, they believe that there will be several unintended consequences making this tax anything but simple. I want to point out some big news that we heard this week. So Multnomah County released a forecast of what it will cost to administer this tax countywide. Proponents believe that this tax will, this measure would bring in $12 to $15 million a year to provide eviction representation. But Multnomah County has stated that in the first year to prop up this department or the division, if you will, it's going to cost $19 million for the first year. And then ongoing yearly costs will be $7 million. So if passed the first year with the current estimates, this program will be $4 million in the red. And then every year after that, they'll be paying 50% on administration fees. So that's a really big concern that we have. Multnomah County's made it clear that it's going to be costly. And it's been clear with the estimates that the amount of money that they're going to bring in we're going to have half eaten up with just administrative costs. Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson from Multnomah County was quoted in Willamette Week in March that this is like using a sledgehammer to pound a nail. This isn't the right solution. I just want to share some of our endorsers that we have. We are a coalition of elected officials, businesses, and nonprofits. And then on this next slide here, we've got all of our elected officials that have endorsed us in opposing this measure. And thank you, Kurt, for throwing that in there. Appreciate it. And then that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know taxes are boring and confusing, but I love them. So I'm happy to talk and answer any questions.
Okay, Kim, you have a question?
Can you remind me who presented this measure?
So the measure is sponsored, and the folks who work behind it was the Democratic Socialists of Portland chapter. And then they've also have support from some other 10 organizations.
And then just curious, do you think that the language was intentional or that it's just not a very well thought out measure on some of these points, like failing to include things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I won't speculate what their thought was behind this. I personally, myself and the folks on our team are very supportive of eviction representation because it is, I spent 5 years at Multnomah County working, and it is a proven strategy to reduce folks being put on the street. It keeps folks housed, but the way that it's been worded and written is going to cause a lot more harm than good, we feel. And so I don't know why they left out those things. The federal IRS is a great example because they keep saying it was their intention and they'll ask the county to fix it. But if I were writing a ballot measure, I would make sure that I would have dotted my I's and crossed my T's.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
And then one other, London, can you ask your question again?
Yeah, for sure. You were just pointing out that people would be paying a lot more. And so I was just wondering if you could provide an example, say, of the profit or the amount of money someone is being taxed on, like in a dollar amount, so that it's feasible to understand what that would actually look like.
Yeah, so it's a 0.75% capital gains tax, so 75 cents per $1,000. So it's smaller to start. One of the concerns of many we have is that this is an adjustable rate. So it's not a fixed 0.75%. They have to, in the measure, it's written that there has to be 18 months of funding available for the program. So the County Board of Commissioners will have to vote to change the tax to make sure that it is properly funded. So what starts out as a 0.75% tax for every $1,000 of capital gains, we feel, based on the projections from the county, that they're going to start out with negative $4 million, that they're going to be raising this rate potentially every year. I don't know by how much, but they have to make sure they have 18 months of operating funds. So it just depends, right? I mean, if you were selling your home and you made $200,000, I'm sorry, I cannot do the math in my head, but that is a large chunk out of a profit that you thought you were going to get. Yeah, thank you, Kurt. Love it.
So thank you. Casey, you have a question.
Yeah, more like a comment. I just wanted to say that whenever you talk about, I'm going to be getting taxed second only to New York, then I'm no longer bored. So
I'm glad. I'll make sure I tell my bosses that talking point works really well.
Oh yeah. No, that got my attention real quick. Yeah, that's like that. And ever since I moved here, all I see are taxes coming at me, and it's insanity. It's like it's almost like it's, again, and I've said this before, I don't know if anyone, probably not to anybody other than Stephanie, but I feel like we're the target of a conspiracy by the greater government to just basically destroy Portland and everything that it stands for. And I won't stand for it. Anyway, that's my.
It sounds like, Casey, you're ready to go door knock for us.
Not quite. No, I wouldn't go that far, but
I have to try.
But I'm totally behind you with everything with every door knock.
I was at a couple neighborhood associations yesterday, and I was telling one of them, I said, I personally am a very big fan of taxes, and take that as you will, but when it's done correctly and written,
right, when it's done right.
Yeah, when it's done right, and when there's no larger loopholes that we're debating a month before we're going to vote. I find it very concerning to make tax policy at the ballot, but especially when you're going in with such ambiguity around some big questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a question. How did this get on the ballot? Were a certain number of signatures required, or what?
Yes. So the group did do signature gathering. I mean, I signed it last summer when they asked me, because I thought it was a good idea at the time. So they did signature gathering last year, and they qualified for the ballot in, I believe, November or December.
So what are the odds of this getting adopted, do you think?
It's a great question. That's a very good question. Right now, it's pretty up in the air because it's a low turnout election. Our midterms are lower turnout, but especially in midterm, not in a general election year. So we're going to have a lot less turnout. So it's really about making sure people are reading their ballots and filling it out. And so there's a good chance that it could pass, because on the surface, if you just read the ballot title on the surface, it does make sense. We do have a housing crisis. We do have a lot of big issues happening in the city, and we don't want to put more people on the street. So I think, on first glance, it's a very easy yes, especially if you don't own a home or you don't own things to sell. I don't really own anything to sell. I don't have any art to sell that's worth anything. But it's really being framed right now as like, oh, so-and-so sold their boat. So-and-so sold their Monet. So, we need to get their money for their Monet. But the reality is we're going to have a lot of medium and small businesses who are putting their business on their own personal tax returns, and they're going to sell, a piece of equipment. You have a small restaurant, you sell, a fridge, you get rid of some stuff. Those are going to be some capital gains you're going to sell, or you're going to get taxed on. And that's a big concern. And then we also, the fact that you could own stuff here, but if you lived in another county or another state, you wouldn't pay a tax. So if I owned a business and I lived in Vancouver, but I owned a business in Portland, I could sell a bunch of stuff. I wouldn't pay capital gains because I'm doing my taxes in Washington. So that's another, kind of why we're saying those corporations aren't going to pay, because those folks filing those taxes are not in the county.
Oh, I see. Okay, Laura Lee, all right, you have a question, then I have a question. Okay.
Well, I think that your point about businesses is so important. Portland needs to be very careful. I've had 3 friends move away outside of, the city limits because of taxes, and they were great residents. We're losing, and it's because of they want to pay less taxes in different counties, and so we're the ones who are hanging out here. But I'm like with Casey, and when I hear that I'm going to be paying more taxes, people who are on the fence on if they're going to stick it out here in Portland, if they do have to pay more taxes, are going to choose to not stay here, and it's so upsetting. And I agree with the houseless crisis and people on the streets. We have to help them, and we have to figure out a way. And the title of this measure is going to get a lot of positive votes. So I guess that it's important to get the information out to everybody about, all the stuff that you presented tonight, and don't know the best way to do that. But thank you for making a good start at this.
Okay, thank you, Laura Lee. London, you have a question again.
Yeah, just I guess wanting to add my 2 cents on what I think about this. I personally, when I think about selling my house, and if I were to have a gain for it and having a sort of capital gains tax like that, again, to me, it's just not really much of a loss for me. I made a gain, and that's more than someone that is facing eviction and being put out into the street. Though I do understand the loopholes, and we don't want those in there. I want big corporations to pay their part and all of that. And so I hope that if it were not to be voted on by voters, that they would have a time to make this ballot measure more succinct and tie up those loose ends to give something more presentable to the public. But yeah, that's just where I stand.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I'm in the same boat, right? If I sell my house, I'm super privileged, it's fine. I'll pay that, that's fine. I think the concern that really drove me to continue working with this group was the budgetary woes that are going to come to the county. Again, as someone who worked there for 5 years, there's a lot that they're doing. And so then to tack this on, and then inevitably the blame that will come to the board of how dare you let this program fail? The voters asked you to do this, when the reality was the county said, hey, you're going to be $4 million in the hole in the first year, and then we're going to eat up half with infrastructure costs. Sorry, we had to raise this tax again. That is really scary, that then it could be on the board. We have a very progressive board who are generally kind of in sync and really try to have that balance, but you could easily have a board that really hikes that rate, or you could come in and have a board that says, hey, you know what, we're going to lower this tax so that this program implodes, and then we don't have this anymore. So that's I appreciate that standpoint, London. And then the other thing I wanted to add too, real quick, was so this measure it requires that the county contract with 5 nonprofits that would provide legal aid services. And I will say in about 2018, we tried to contract out to do some undocumented immigrant representation for folks who were facing deportation, and making sure we had some extra support there. It was really difficult to find people, law firms that would do this for the rate that your government's going to be able to pay versus a private company. So that's a concern I have too. Again, as somebody who worked there, they're going to get in trouble again if they like, hey, we can only find 3 nonprofits that do this. And Oregon Law Center and Metropolitan Public Defenders being the main 2 that already do this. It is another concern. I
know definitely the public offices are looking at increasing their funding for sure to get more qualified individuals in those spots to make it more, so that people who want to be in those positions. So, but yeah, definitely a balance there.
So Gail, you have a question.
I worked with Hacienda a couple of years ago when I was having troubles with Chase. Notice no bad words. And didn't cost anything. And they were able to save my house. That's a public entity. We should just fund them instead of a new tax. My opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Stephanie, did you have another question you said?
Yes, I had a question about the corporations. You're saying that they escape paying this tax because their headquarters are not located within Multnomah County. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the tax is on residents. So like with the small and medium-sized businesses, most of those owners are doing the taxes on their own, their personal taxes for the business as well.
I see.
So that's where they're going to be hit. But somebody who owned a business here but lived out of the county, whether in Clackamas, Washington, or in Clark County, right? They wouldn't pay because they're not paying their personal taxes here. Washington does have a capital gains tax, but it's better flushed out and makes more sense, and it's statewide, which again was a concern that we had about, like, not that we're saying you need to do it, but if you're going to do it, doing it statewide, because then you're able to really expand that pot and help more people. But yeah, so those larger corporations, those owners are not living here, so it's not being taxed.
I see. And then the program would be $4 million in deficit the first year because the measure requires services to be provided, whether any money has been collected or not, right? You're supposed to right out the gate.
So the $19 million that first year is the county's estimate for setting up the program and doing the contracting, putting out RFPs to get providers, and all that background work. And then it's going to cost $7 million, $7 million a year after that initial 19 million in just program costs at the county to administer the tax. And they're basing that off of how much it's costing them to collect the taxes for the supportive housing bond that was passed in 2020.
I see. Yeah. So we would be supporting a bunch of bureaucrats.
Sure, right. Yeah, your words, yeah.
Okay. Well, this is a lot to think about. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Okay, I don't either. So Nathan, if you'll send me the slideshow that, or whatever it is that you're going to send me, I will make sure we post it to our mailing list and our website. And wait, what are you going to send me? Is that what you just showed us?
Yeah, so I can send you a copy of our slide deck, and then I'll send you a one-pager, and I can send you also a copy of the economic analysis that was provided to us.
Oh, if you would, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone for your questions. You're the first group that's asked me questions, so I appreciate it.
Oh, we're the best. Yeah. In Brentwood, Darlington. Yeah. No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so time to go on to announcements of public interest. Pam, can you give us an update on the local planning effort? We call it TGM, city calls it Lower Southeast Rising. And there was a meeting of the Public Advisory Committee or Project Advisory Committee day before yesterday, right? So why don't you tell us about that?
That's correct. So for those of you who are new to this forum, this is a major planning study funded by a grant from the state. It's about $250,000. And the study's been going on now for about 2 years. This was the 11th meeting of the Project Advisory Committee, of which I am a member. And so the staff has pulled together a voluminous early release draft that will go eventually to both the City Planning Commission and then to the City Council. And I'm sorry, I've got a cat that's sneezing on my lap. So those are the odd sound effects that you're hearing. Sorry. So this was an early release draft for the Project Advisory Committee. We have until Monday to comment. Then our comments will be incorporated in this draft and released to the public, all of you, around April 24th. And then there will be a robust round of public engagement that will last about 6 weeks so that the public will have the opportunity to comment and ask questions. So last night, the planners outlined all of the various ways that they're going to do public outreach, including an online open house and survey, a Zoom event with a webinar, a special app with a map of the changes where you can comment right in the app. They're also envisioning tabling at community gathering places and events, a mailer to plan area addressees, flyers, and targeted outreach to Latinx and Asian communities, renters, stakeholder interviews, neighborhood association meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully you will be hearing about this in multiple ways towards the end of this month, not just from me. But in the meantime, if you'd like to catch up on what this planning study is all about, you can Google Lower Southeast Area Rising, and all of the planning documents that are supporting these final set of recommendations, which is about 100 pages, is there for your reading pleasure. We had met with the lead planner, Stephanie and I, in January, and knowing that there was going to be another round of intensive public engagement, we asked them if we might be able to piggyback on their upcoming survey, because another project that our neighborhood association is working on is a renovation and revitalization of our Brentwood Darlington Community Center, which is now cited in the report as a agency or center that can help with anti-displacement efforts. It's forecasted that when the planning recommendations, land use changes, transportation changes, commercial development is fully implemented, which may take like 20 years, that gentrification is likely, and it's possible that as prices rise, renters and others may be displaced out of our neighborhood. And so along with the recommendations of this report, the planners are also trying to identify ways in which they can minimize the amount of displacement. So again, by way of background, our Brentwood Darlington Community Center on 62nd and Knapp has been leased in recent years to a social service agency called Impact Northwest that provide many of the social services that would help with preventing displacement of residents from Brentwood Darlington. And so after briefing the planning staff about this rather unique resource we have within our boundaries, they are recommending in this draft that the city provide additional funding for anti-displacement housed at the Brentwood Darlington Community Center, housing assistance, et cetera, and to actually fund 2 staff positions. So we're very grateful for that. And we're hoping to have the planning staff include in this survey going out to all residents of the the study area, some questions about the new role of the Brentwood Darlington Community Center, so that we will have that data to present before the Planning Commission and City Council about express needs from residents. There's no major changes in content from the last presentation you heard from the city planners on this study. Again, you can go out to their website for the planning documents. The other interesting thing that happened 2 nights ago was there was a fascinating, I thought, presentation from the chair of the Woodstock Neighborhood Association, who in her daily life is a professor of architecture at Portland State University. And for the last 2 years, her students have prepared design scenarios for our area around 52nd and 72nd. And they seem to be, in my opinion, world class. And even the planners were getting excited seeing this. They're confined somewhat by their roles as city planners and land use regulations. But this is really exciting stuff that the students have researched and presented, casting more importance into the ecology of Brentwood Darlington and the surrounding areas, our open spaces and rainwater catchment systems. And at the end of the meeting 2 nights ago, city planners were musing about, is there a way that they can actually incorporate some of these student ideas in the report going to the Planning Commission and the City Council? So they're working on that. And in a nutshell, that's what we talked about 2 nights ago.
Okay.
Questions?
Do we have any questions for Pam? No, okay, very fine. Before we go on, we've been joined by a gentleman named Eric W. And I'm a little worried that Eric, you may have joined us to hear the capital gains tax presentation.
That's Eric Weiskopf.
Eric Wyckoff. Yeah, I'm Eric Wyckoff.
I've never met you, so I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't recognize you. All right. Welcome. All right, fine.
Thank you.
Okay,
Corey
so
contacted me, and so I jumped on. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's quite all right. All right, so the next item has to do with this updating the where things stand with the Brentwood Darlington Community Center. Impact Northwest is collecting bids from various contractors, and we have a bid for a new roof, but we don't understand it. So we're going, next meeting, we maybe get an explanation. Gail provided some information that may be very useful for installation of solar panels and battery backup, because we want this building to be able to be independent of the electrical grid if the larger grid goes down during an emergency. So it'll take a while to collect all the bids, but we'll let you know once we know what they are and can understand them. We'll let you know about it. Gail, go ahead.
Some of the contractors do roof and solar as a package.
Yeah, no, that's true. And so we noted that when we saw there was a roof only. So yeah, we want to make sure that that we can take advantage of of what you're talking about. Right, yes. And so Impact is working on the building proper, and our charge is to begin developing a network of partners who can help serve residents all over the neighborhood during emergencies. And so we will be reaching out to possible partners, public schools, the neighborhood emergency team, Learning Gardens Lab, Black Futures Farm, Moose Lodge, Master Gardeners, and churches, Rose, CDC, and even local businesses. And the idea is to eventually have a very vibrant and helpful set of nodes where people can go and get information and be directed to either go in the door and take refuge, or be directed to a better place. But not everyone can come to the community center, right? So it's nice to have little places all over where people can gather, comfort one another, get information, and maybe seek some refuge. So we'll be working on that in the months to come, and that'll be very interesting for us. Okay, so that is the update on the community center. We don't have a whole lot of detail now, but we will in the future. And then we had a resident, Leslie McKinley, who was very instrumental, along with Chelsea Powers, our former chair, and other advocates in the neighborhood in 2016, soliciting money from the federal government with which to lay in sidewalks. So we would have complete sidewalks on Flavel between 82nd and 52nd, and Duke the same thing. And they were very successful in getting those funds. And the city put up even more funding too, to cover what the the regional flexible funding didn't cover, and also to create a greenway which will run east-west between Duke and Flavel. So Leslie wanted to know, where are the sidewalks? Where's the greenway? But especially, where are these sidewalks? And she received an email from Brian Poole, which he shared with me. He's the newly assigned project manager for the sidewalks and greenway combo project, which PBOT calls Brentwood Darlington multimodal improvements, but I think we should just call it sidewalks and greenway, so we know what it is. He apologized for how long it's taken and had a number of explanations about it. One is that the federal funding didn't become available until the last fiscal year. It's awarded 3 years out, so it doesn't show up right away. But it was definitely made available to the city last year. And then the city has been getting consultants. They began survey and environmental work in August 2020. Design started in October 2020. Then they found they're going to be over budget, so they redid the design. And then some more money came in when the 82nd Avenue project was approved. So then they undid the designs and went back to the original path for designing. So there was some delay there. And then in the year 2021, they also lost staff and had to and capacity. They said that, I think that means they hired new people who were, had to get up to speed to get working. So there was that problem. And I also heard one knowledgeable person say that LA and Seattle invested heavily in their regional transit agencies, and then they raided other cities for transportation planners. So that may be one of the reasons that there was loss of staff in Portland. So just as last August, they began to acquire right-of-way. Most of that's just temporary so that they can start in laying in the sidewalks. And then they are also, they're continuing to work. They're sending notifications to residents who will be losing parking as a result of adding crosswalks or moving transit stops. Then they need to get ODOT approval. And that takes about 2 to 3 months because ODOT still has a lot of say over how our streets are used. So they're going to seek, with advertising the project for bids in June or July. They're going to award the project for actually laying concrete in August. Construction would then start, or could, he says, could then start in September or October, and it will take approximately a year.
This year?
September of this year.
Woohoo!
Yes. Could, he said could, not will. So he's trying to be cautious here. And it was very apologetic. It was, there have been a lot of setbacks. We do want our sidewalks. It's been a long time. But he'll provide weekly project update at the project website. So if you want to find it, you have to input Brentwood Darlington multimodal improvements, not sidewalks and greenways in Brentwood Darlington. Brentwood Darlington multimodal improvements at the PBOT website will get you there. And they'll have a monthly update through a project newsletter. And they can come and talk to us now and then if the chair asks them to. So I think we could do that in the summer maybe. And so he says to Leslie, I know it's no consolation. These projects are also taking a long time to deliver, but he says, we have been doing a lot of work in Brentwood Darlington, and we know that. We've seen millions of dollars invested in our neighborhood in recent years. With 70s neighborhood greenway, the 60s bikeway, we got the speed bumps on Flavel Drive, crossing to Hazeltine Park. We've had two pedestrian islands, refuges installed, one at 52nd near Knapp and the other on Flavel at 62nd. The neighbors have wanted for years to make crossing safer for their children who are heading up to Lane Middle School. So we have gotten a lot of attention in the last few years. So we're really grateful for that. So Leslie, though, she wanted to know that who's responsible for the delay, and pretty much Brian responded and gave her the reasons for recent delay, but there are others that he didn't mention. During the COVID year, PBOT lost half of its revenue, which the revenue normally comes from downtown parking fees, and no one was parking downtown, right? It was a ghost town. And then they also lost valuable work resources because employees fell sick with COVID. Okay, so then they also came up with funding to keep our TGM project alive. So some of them, there was a nice investment there. And then I wanted to show you something that is my, okay, hold on just 1 second. I'm gonna have to bring up the agenda again. This is something that I wanted to share that is my opinion on, okay. And that is that back in the 1980s, cities all over the United States, city councils decided that annexing property was going to be a really great way to, hold on, let me see if I can just cross this out. Okay, never mind, I'm sorry. Okay, so according to one analysis, you know, if you could, can you see this map of the United States with all the red dots? Those are cities that, according to quite a few analysts, over-annexed. They took on property where they got development fees up front. That was very nice, but then they were left with long-term obligations to provide services to these annexed areas. And you can see there's Portland. You can see a strip of cities down the Willamette Valley, and there's Portland. It's one of the cities that over-annexed. And then if you look at when the annexation occurred, here is Brentwood Darlington, 1980s. And here is East Portland and Cully, 1980s. And then out here, there's more of East Portland, 1991 to present. Gigantic acquisitions, huge acquisitions. And that's our competition. I mean, we want sidewalks, but so does Cully. And so do the people in East Portland. And so it's not that we're being ignored. It's that there's just this huge area to serve now that didn't used to be there. So when our advocates went to the Metro Board and asked for the federal funding, they showed maps like this that showed Brentwood, Darlington with no sidewalks, but all around our neighborhoods with lots of sidewalks. And so it looked like we're the only ones who don't have sidewalks. But when you look at the whole city, then you see that, yes, Brentwood Darlington has no sidewalks, but also Cully up here to our north doesn't have any sidewalks either. And there are huge swaths of East County that don't have any sidewalks either. So the whole picture is a little bit, it's a little more different. So there's a lot of nuance here that we're not the only ones. Yes, we deserve sidewalks, but we're not the only ones. So when I was thinking about Leslie's request, like who's to blame? I think if we could go back in a time machine and blame these city council people and say, look, we can't take on all this land all at once, we'd be justified in saying, you're overdoing it and you have to cut back. So that's my take. And anyway, I thought it was interesting to review these maps and the annexation tables and so on. So are there any comments or questions about my opinionated presentation? No, okay.
Loved it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
It's all interesting. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to close that now. And let's see, I stopped screen sharing. All right. So that was it for public announcements. Now we're rather ahead of schedule. Well, I think we're actually caught up to our schedule now. Would you like to take a break or shall we continue? What do you think? Should we, if you want to continue, put up your hand, please. Okay. All right. Okay, fine. Well, let's go on. And then if you decide you have to have a break, then let me know. And my hand seems to be up, but that was an accident. All right. Okay, so let us go on to board business. Laura Lee, okay, I need to get rid of something here. Hold on just one moment. Okay.
Don't get rid of me.
No, I won't, but there was something in the background behind my Zoom area that was bothering me, and it's gone now. All right. Let's just bring up the agenda for a moment. Okay, I seem to have closed it. I beg your pardon.
Stephanie, do you mind? This is Derek. Eric joined us earlier. He's a past chair and land use person as well. Do you mind if he does a quick introduction so people know who he is?
Okay, yeah, just a moment, Eric. Hold on just
Okay.
a second. Okay.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, Gail. How's it going?
Great. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you.
Good. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. I'm not officially back. I'm just hanging out. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, Eric, I thought you moved out of the area. Did you come back, or were you telecommuting, or what were you and Robin doing?
Yeah. So we were getting a divorce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's
good?
basically what happened. I'm still in the area. I just dropped off the board for a while, but that's basically what happened in personal life. And but I'm still in the neighborhood. I've been here 15 years, and so I just thought, I'd check in and see what everybody's up to these days. And so yeah, that's basically a quick introduction, I suppose, about what happened in life. And but we're both friends. We still maintain co-ownership of our Chihuahua James Bond, and life is good.
All right. Well, very good. Thanks for the update, and welcome back.
Thanks, everyone.
So Eric, when did you serve on as land use chair, and were you chair as well?
Yeah. So, gosh, that's I started off, I think it was chair around 2009, 2010, and then I ended up. So I was chair after. So I was vice chair. Let's see. I think I was chair after John Reiklein left, and then Jacob came on board, Jacob Sherman, and I was vice chair during that time, and then he left, and I was chair again. So I was basically chair before Leslie was chair. So that's the line of succession of chairs, I believe.
Okay, I'm just making.
But I started off as a land use chair. I got asked to be a part of that, and if that was something I could do again, and it's, I don't obviously really have the capacity to do the work of the chair. I know what it's all about, but I'd still like to contribute where I can, So whether it's just a board member or something else, that's what I'm interested in, I guess.
Oh, okay, very fine. Okay, I appreciate that. All right,
Yeah.
very good. All right.
Me too. I appreciate that as well, Eric.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay, so the first, I'm going to share the screen just to show the agenda. And okay. And let me see if I can see it. All right, so Laura Lee, did you send, you have not sent out the amended, the slightly amended final minutes, right? Laura Lee? Oh, okay.
This takes me a second to get off mute. No, I haven't sent those out.
Okay, fine. All right, well then we won't be approving them at this meeting, and we'll approve them at the next meeting. All right, so the treasurer's report, Pam, can you talk to us about the treasurer's report? I don't know if I can.
Sure. So thank you for putting it up on the screen. This is the treasurer's report for February. Since March just closed, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. And dropping down to the bottom line, I think you saw this in the handouts attached to the final agenda that went out March 30th, but you can see that at the end of February, the forecasted balance was $6,072.78. And you will see next month, most likely a higher amount, because we had a very successful spring green e-cycling event on April. Well, I guess you won't see it till April because it happened on April 1st. So I think Tina and Stephanie, you'll be talking about that later, but that will certainly help our balance going forward. And let's see, there are a couple of line items that I wanted to highlight in the February timeframe. One was we had a catered board retreat on March 18th. And so we were actually recording some expected expenses for that. The quote from Mary's, the caterer, came in a little higher than expected. So you'll see expected expenses of $400. And Stephanie, I think you were a little shocked. And so you stepped up and pledged a donation of $200 to help offset that overage. So thank you very much. But that might be a little confusing to folks, so I thought I would mention it. And then I was surprised by a deposit of $48.51 that just showed up in our checking account, but tracking it down, apparently there's still a link on our website to make donations that flow through the PayPal platform and are deposited directly to our fiscal sponsor, Southeast Uplift. So thank you, Paul Reinhardt, whoever you might be, for your donation of $48.51. And you see that recorded here under expected income, because I think technically it did not deposit into our Soul account until March. So unless there are questions, I move to approve the treasurer's report for February. And Stephanie, I don't know whether you want to call for discussion or whether someone wants to second that.
I call for a second. Okay.
Second.
All right, Gail, thank you. And is there any discussion? Are there any questions? No questions, okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. We'll take the roll call. Okay, Pam?
Aye.
Okay, Gail?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Vivian?
Aye.
Casey?
Aye.
And let's see, whom am I missing somebody? Hold on, let me look back on my list.
Laura Lee, aye.
Laura Lee and Derek. Laura Lee?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
And I, Stephanie, am an aye as well. So that is a unanimous passage of the February Treasurer's report. Yeah, looking good then. Okay, very fine. And then did you want to tell us anything about fiscal sponsorship, Pam?
Yes, Stephanie, thank you. So I think you actually provided a brief explanation attached to the agenda. But I went ahead as the treasurer and signed the new fiscal sponsorship agreement with Southeast Uplift on March 7th. That covers the period March 24th of this year through March 23rd of next year. I had mentioned that I would bring it back to the board prior to signature if there were substantial revisions by Southeast Uplift for this year compared to last year's, because they said they were making revisions. But Stephanie and I both reviewed the verbiage, and truly it was just cleanup. I did have a conference call with Southeast Uplift staff to confirm the understandings, and the executive director at Southeast Uplift reconfirmed that they are continuing to provide director and officers liability insurance for us for this current fiscal year. I know that question comes up by board members from time to time, so that was reassuring. And then Southeast Uplift in the fiscal sponsorship agreement now says they're only obligated to provide quarterly accounting reports of the funds they're holding for us, but upon request, they will provide monthly reports. And so I've requested it and they've agreed to provide monthly reports for all of this fiscal year. So thank you, Southeast Uplift. And then there's verbiage in the agreement that they will only provide tax receipts for charitable donations in excess of $250 per donation. But in further conversation with the executive director, she said they're going to waive that in practice. So as we've been getting charitable donations less than the $250 threshold, we will start submitting those to Southeast Uplift for issuance of tax receipts to the generous donors that are supporting our efforts. So that's it on fiscal sponsorship, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Pam? No, and we took advantage of the tax receipt offer from Southeast Uplift at our Spring Green event. And when we get to talking about that event, I'll address that. But it was nice to be able to offer that. Okay, so let's go back in the agenda here. Okay, thank you very much, Pam. And we seem to have reached a little lull with Southeast Uplift, right? With all the new policies and practices and processes and procedures and verbiage and nomenclature, and oh my God, you know, it's time to rest from what all is going on with them. Okay, so our next item on the agenda was that concerns land use chair, and Derek had offered to step up as land use chair and focus on development issues in the area. But then he has realized that he is overextended, he's working 2 jobs, and that's not going to work. And so thank you, Derek, for even considering stepping up to help us. We really appreciate everything you do. And that would be, that I agree that would be too much for what you've got going on right now. But we still want to hear from you about your knowledge about the housing market and what's going on in Brentwood Darlington. So you're still going to be doing land use, even if you don't think you are, and because you're very knowledgeable about the real estate market. Right. So Derek took the initiative of reaching out to Eric Wyckoff to see whether he would be interested in land use chair. And this is of interest to us because Eric has had a lot of experience with the BDNA, both as chair and as land use chair in the past. So what we've suggested, though, is that we have to go through a formal process. We have to announce ahead of time on an agenda and so on. But we also have realized that we would like to get to know Eric well, and also we need to update our bylaws that concern land use committee, because it's very antiquated and no longer suits the modern age. So we would like to work with you, Eric, and get to know you and work on the bylaws and arrive at an endpoint in the next month, 2-3 months. So I hope that you will agree to that, to speak with us and get to know us. I very much appreciated your offer to serve in whatever capacity, and that would be lovely if you would join us and help us. But we realize that the land use situation, it's actually the fact that you are interested in it, and that Derek was stepping up for it and so on, has spurred us to realize that we need to update our procedures and get things in good order and then proceed. So I think that's what we'll do, and we thank you both for your interest, and we will look forward to the future here. So at the moment, no action on land use, except to begin working on getting to know Eric and working on our land use bylaws. So,
Stephanie, I have a question.
Sure.
When you said the land use bylaws were antiquated, could you just elaborate a little bit or expand on that?
Oh, okay, fine. The bylaws right now, and help me, Pam, establish the land use committee as almost like another board. The land use chair does not need to be a board member. The land use chair is appointed by the chair of the BDNA and does not need the approval or support of the rest of the board. And I would like to change that so that the land use chair is a board member, and the chair appoints a land use chair with the approval of the board, so that we are all working together closely. Gail.
You are actually very, very much correct. It has been occasionally a separate entity, and I agree with you that we should be one big happy family.
Okay, thank you, Gail. And we will be discussing this and arrive at a new set of procedures together. It's not me dictating it, and but I think it will serve us better if, as Gail says, we are one big happy family.
Stephanie, I'd say reaching back into my memory banks here pre-COVID, you and I spent several months reviewing our existing bylaws back in 2018. And I believe we both have saved documents that were presented to the board way back when about all the recommended changes to the bylaws. And perhaps we can, resurrect those documents. I think COVID hit and it was put to one side, and we never went through the formal adoption of new bylaws. And there was a lot of updating to be done because part of our analysis was to compare our existing bylaws with the Southeast Uplift's recommended bylaws template. And so we have all of that commentary. We just need to bring it to the fore and have the patience to work through it again. So
right, and I'd like to find a way of doing that that's palatable to people like moi, for whom bylaws and their terminology are just like the worst possible use of the English language and really difficult to deal. But yes, Pam is right, and we will be working on that. We'll look at our thinking from 2018 and then apply our new thinking. And yeah, okay, so that's what we'll do, and maybe that'll be a good summer project done. Okay. So to move, thank you for that, Pam. To move on to the next item, which is to approve a policy which is the following. I'm suggesting that we create a board committee that contains at least one board member, but preferably more, and residents, volunteers from all over our neighborhood to get together and talk about how to use the BDCC to come up with tons of ideas that we then use to advertise through the neighborhood to whip up enthusiasm on the part of the residents and joy and understanding that the community center is going to become ours again and be open to us. So the three-part vision, let me remind you, for the BDCC is as follows. One part is to serve as a place of information and refuge and help during weather extremes. A second part is to have Impact Northwest provide services to the people of our neighborhood who are at risk of losing their dwellings, whether it's rental or a home that they rent, apartment or whatever. This is one of Impact's strong points, and this will be, as we're gentrifying, as land values are increasing, we will see more and more demand for help. I think there are going to be more and more people who are facing higher and higher rents every month, and so we're going to be able to help them. But the third part is opening up the community center for use by residents, a drop-in place, a meetup place. Hey, I'll meet you at the community center, or let's you know, there's coffee every month. I mean, every week on Wednesday morning, I'll meet you up there. So I would like a committee to start brainstorming all kinds of wonderful uses. How do we use the kitchen? Do we have a chili throwdown? Maybe a string quartet wants to practice in the back room. Whatever, there are many, many, many uses, and they can be kind of divided into drop-in, informal, no reservations needed, reservations needed but no fee, reservations needed and a fee, and time of day, weekends. So there are lots of different possibilities to consider. And so when I get back in May, I will I'll reach out to the board here, and we can jumpstart this committee. And I think it'll be fun. It doesn't have to have regular meeting hours. You can conduct business by text, by email, by Zoom. It should be something that's fun, where you are just collecting ideas, just the way when we had the fundraising night and we came up with all those ideas. That was a great deal of fun. And I would like to see a committee do the same thing. So we'll help get that started, but I would like to have the board, or ask the board to approve the creation of this committee, because I always feel better if I'm not the one dictating, okay, this will happen. I want to know if the board supports ideas and wants to join in on their implementation. So I move that we create a committee that is devoted to imagining uses of the BDCC.
Yes, I second.
Okay, all right. Are there any questions or discussion? And I'll say that too. I would like the committee to come up with a final report. It can be in very informal form, but it's something that we would present to Impact Northwest. Okay, no questions, no discussion. All right, well then I'm going to call the roll. Pam?
Aye.
All right, Gail?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Vivian?
Aye.
Casey?
Aye.
Laura Lee?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
And I, Stephanie, am an aye. All right, that is a unanimous vote. Okay, very fine. All right, well, when I get back from Germany, then I'll reach out to you and we'll get the committee going. Pardon? Are you willing to work on it, Gail?
Heck yeah.
Oh, then go, then do it. Start it now. Reach out to other board members and to your neighbors and your friends.
I nominate Tina.
Okay, well, all right. You can see whether Tina accepts that. Tina, are you still with us?
I am, and I had already piped in going, oh, I am totally down with being on that committee.
Down or up? I mean,
totally going for it.
Oh, okay, wonderful, fabulous. All right, we already have 2 people. That is wonderful. Then you guys go. I'm not having anything more to do with it. You know what to do. So thank you very much. That's exciting. All right, but one thing you need to do is let me go to the let's see, page 4. I had suggested a name that I really hate, BDCC Renew. No. One of the things I would like you to do is to come up with a name for your committee, okay? That you don't have to do it now, but come up with a good name, all right? Not that one. BDCC Renew is awful. And so this little section here does lay out the parameters, drop in that do not require reservation or fees, things that do require reservations and so on. You can have a look at that when you start talking, and it can guide your brainstorming. But okay, thank you very much, Gail and Tina. That is fabulous. Okay, to go back to our next item, I have another policy I would like to propose, and that is that we create a body of people who are not official board members, but who like to be associated with the board and who are bringing special competence or special project work to us. For example, Tina doing the bringing together the spring green e-cycling event, or Brett Farrell, who is helping to develop a new website, or Lisa Jameson, who is working on bringing NET back to life. These people don't necessarily want to serve on the board and don't have time to delve into all the board business that we do, but they have special projects that they like to work on, and I would like to recognize them and give them a special status, because some of them will need access to website, to Facebook, to whatever. And for some, it can be something they put on their CV. They don't have to be board member, but they can be a BDNA board advisor. Gail.
Would that at-large umbrella cover this type of thing? Where you're at large, you're not required to do anything, but you can help when you can.
Well, these
not
are not
member, but at large.
I'm thinking of these people as not official board members. This would be in the Cully model. They have board members and then they have a group of advisors. The advisors do not vote on things the way at-large members do, and they're not needed for quorum. They would have a different status. It would be associated with us, but they would not be voting board members the way at-large members are. And they would be kind of single project people, like Lisa Jameson with a neighborhood emergency team kind of thing. So they're halfway between regular volunteers and board members. So
as I understand it, they would not be precluded from running for a board position, right?
Oh, not at all.
Having two hats.
No, and in fact, people interested in becoming board members might want to be advisors for a while and work on a special project and learn how the board works and so on, and then run for the board if they wanted. So it might be a good pathway to board membership. So I move that we create a body called Board Advisors, and I have some names of people I would like to recommend for membership in this advisors group. But first, I move that we create a body of board advisors. Do I have a second?
Second. Thank
you, Gail. All right. Then I would, is there any discussion? No discussion. All right. Well, then I would like to call a vote. Pam?
Aye.
Gail?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Vivian?
Aye.
Casey?
Aye.
Laura Lee?
Aye.
And Derek?
Aye.
Okay, and so I would like to, before inviting people to become board members, I would like the board to approve those people. I don't want to be a dictator. I don't want to do this alone. So, but I do have 4 names I would like to propose right now and see if you will support this. One is Tina, because she does not have the time to serve on the board, but she is full of ideas and willingness to help with our events and so on. So Tina is one person. Lisa Jameson, who has been working very hard on trying to revive NET, the neighborhood emergency team for our neighborhood, is another person. Third person is Brett Farrell, who has begun helping me with the Squarespace website.
Mhm.
And the fourth person is Pim Carlton, who is Casey's wife. Pim is very knowledgeable about social media and can be very helpful to me as I'm trying to create posts. So is Tina. Pim has lots of wonderful ideas as we're in different situations. She's always bubbling with ideas, and I would like very much to see her be an initial member of our board advisors. So that's 4 people that I'm proposing. So I would like to know if you approve of these people. Are there any questions?
Can you tell us, well, I guess you've already told us, so, and again, these people would serve on not the board of the neighborhood association at large, but this new board we just created.
Right, and it's a very informal board. There are no meetings, no minutes. It's a group of individuals who are already helping us anyway, and it's a way of giving them some formal recognition. It's a little different from volunteer who comes and say, I don't know, helps us for 2 hours at the Sparrowhawk. This is different. There's more ongoing kinds of projects and so on. Laura Lee.
So they're all aware that we're about to vote them on as board advisors, correct? Like, is that?
They're aware that I was going to propose this to the board and that with the board's support, I would invite them.
Okay.
But, okay, so, all right, well, may I, okay, Gail.
So they would almost be like a subcommittee without being on the board.
They would be, but they would have they wouldn't, on a committee, generally people are working on one thing, but these advisors have quite a variety of things that they're working on. The website is one thing, the net is another, events, as with Tina, is another one, and Crafting Circle, well, you and Tina, I won't bring that up because Tina would be already worked on that. She's already working on that. But it would be a body of people who have quite widely different efforts that they're undertaking on our behalf, on behalf of the neighborhood, I should say.
Yeah.
The only concern that I have is if these advisors view themselves as committee chairs and start holding meetings, we should probably, research public meeting laws and whether they need to keep minutes and all of that. So my understanding of these advisors is they're working on a solo basis. They're not holding meetings. They're not forming committees. So we shouldn't stumble into any of these public meeting law.
Yeah. Like a subcommittee of volunteers.
Yes.
Not a committee. Not a member. Not a board.
Right. Yeah, a subcommittee. Okay, that's
family. They're family. cousins and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, they're extended family. So, all right. Well, for the 4 people I've named: Pim Carlton, Brett Farrell, Tina Bjornstad Zafransky, and Lisa Jameson, may I move that we propose membership in our subcommittee to them?
Aye.
May I have a second?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay. Are you, Casey, are you seconding it?
Sure.
Okay, fine. All right. Casey is the second. All right. Well, then I'm going to call the roll yet again. Okay, Pam.
Aye.
Gail.
Aye.
Kim.
Aye.
Vivian.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Probably shouldn't call on you, Casey. You have conflict of interest.
I know, it's a conflict of interest for me. Yeah, it's terrible.
Laura Lee.
Aye.
And Derek.
Aye.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much. I think we'll try this. You know, one thing going forward, if I'm reelected chair and so on, I want to make sure that we always evaluate things every so often to see how they're working and not hold on to things that aren't working. And so we'll make sure to evaluate our board advisors at some point and within the year and see how we're doing. But with everything, I would like to evaluate so we don't get stuck in dead end stuff that isn't working. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Let's see. Do we have time for? You know what? We're all of a sudden running out of time. May I go to the Spring Green event and just talk about that real fast? Okay. Well, it was a big success. We had more than 200 people show up. We made at least $800 in donations. Green Century Recycling collected 1.5 tons of electronic equipment. And then we made the acquaintance of this Greg Anderson of Greg's Hauling. We should have him speak under Exploring Brentwood Darlington. He took everything that Green Century couldn't take, no matter what it was. And so we were left with no cleanup, and we had nothing brought to us that we were then responsible for. So
wow.
We're really grateful to him. And we have submitted the report to Metro. It's gone. And thank you for photographs, Tina. The sandwich boards have been collected. We didn't lose any this time because we tethered them to poles with cables. So they're all cleaned up and ready to go. They were designed by Tina. They have an unusual feature, which is there's a basic part to them that names the neighborhood association and categories like date, time, and so on, and event. And we can just peel off the old and put in the new so that we can use this honeycomb boards again and again and again without having to buy new ones or pay for printing. So thank you, Tina. And then thank you, Tina. You spent hundreds of hours on this event, and I can't tell you how wonderful it was. It just went so smoothly. Afterwards, we made money. We're in good graces with Metro because the grant went so well. And the event went so well. And for those of you who came to our event, Casey, Gail, and Tina was there, I was there, and Kim, thank you. It seemed, do you agree with me that it was just so upbeat?
Loved it, so great.
The vibe there was fabulous. People were so happy to have this event and to just be doing something wonderful. And when they got directed to the donation table, they just practically ran over, pulling money out of their wallets. It was amazing. And it was just a lovely, lovely event. So Tina, thank you 3 million times.
Thank you.
And so would you like to say something, Tina?
So one of the reasons why it took so long was because I was typing everything up so that there's a blueprint. So the next person that wants to head this up will only have 30 minutes worth of emails to send out to line people up, communicating with the board to make sure that the space is reserved, and a blueprint on how to actually run the event. So it becomes a very low-key event, as well as the graphics for the sandwich boards. I went fancy because that's who I am. I'm a type A personality. So I broke out my Cricut and I did it all in vinyl, of which had been donated from Precision Gas Parts. So it was free other than labor. And I could go ahead and cut it again, or we can literally just print it on a printer and put it onto the boards in less than 30 minutes flat for every event that the board ever wants to do for the next 10 years, at which point the initial vinyl template will need to be refreshed. It may be longer because they're not being constantly stored 24 hours, 7 days a week, year round outside. So minimum, those permanent vinyl templates is in place for 10 to 12 years. So that took a lot more time so that all future events can be basically templated and fast and easy for whoever decides to take the drive and run with it. And it's a pretty generic floor plan so that it could be used for different kinds of events. So if somebody wanted to do like a preservation class in the kitchen, they could use the same template. All of the social media marketing is saved. It can literally be updated in minutes. All of the marketing for Craigslist and Nextdoor and Facebook and the Bee, all of that's saved as a template. So any activities that you have big plans for, it took a lot of time on this end, but long-term longevity, it's going to make life easier and faster for everyone.
Thank you, Tina. Yeah, for setting that out for years out. You know, that's fabulous, really is. And just so you know, Tina set up a week's worth of postings for social media, each day emphasizing something new and timing them. She has a degree in marketing and she knows how to push those buttons, even making sure that even early morning on the day of, remind them, oh yeah, oh yeah, okay, today's the day. So we started on a Sunday or Saturday, I can't remember now, and then went through the week every day a new post. We didn't do Mondays though, right? Nobody looks at their email on Mondays, but I'm learning from Tina. But we did the other days, and thank you for that. That was fabulous. Okay, so anyway, that's the spring green. Thank you for those of you who were there. It was Kim, you did a great job counting. And that was something I had to put in the Metro report, and just was able to put it right in. So thank you.
So Stephanie, I don't have your financial report in front of me, but we not only covered all of our expenses through the Metro grant, but we made a sizable net profit from this event, correct? Do you remember the exact amount or approximate amount?
Of the amount that we gained from donations?
Yes.
It's at least 834, but yeah. we have some, there were $90 that people submitted through that QR code, and we don't know where the $90 is. So I've just put a letter in the mail to Southeast Uplift asking them, did you get it? Because it's supposedly they did. So we'll find out. So yeah, no, we made a lot of money on this. And people really were they were opening their wallets and running to the table. It was amazing. And, you know, we had the Metro grant, so all of our costs were covered and we came in under budget. Tina.
Also, like the day of the event, between setup and takedown, and we swept the whole thing. Everything was tidied and put away. It was 4 hours, okay? 4 hours.
Yeah.
Literally, you could take this event and do it in 4.5 hours worth of prep work and take names and do high fives, right? And we educated people. So we had Bikes for Humanity that had like 12 people learn how to do bike maintenance for free. How incredible.
Yeah, incredible. Oh, that was really nice. And people were able to take all their electronic detritus and feel good about handing it off to a company that's going to make sure it gets well recycled and reused and it does not end up in the landfill. So people were really, that we got thanked. Kim and Gail and Casey, you were at the front table there. We got thanked again and again, right, for holding this event. And
oh yeah, great event.
That was really fun. Okay, so to go back real fast, I know we're over time, but I'll go real fast. Kim, do you have anything to report from Southeast Uplift?
Yes, I do. So I'll try to be quick. Portland Parks and Rec, they're removing older light posts in local parks. And there was concern that they were removing some immediately, but not replacing the lighting right at that moment, so that there would be areas of parks throughout the city that would not be well lit. So we at Southeast Uplift did send a letter of support, and we found out probably one of many. March 29th, Commissioner Ryan announced that he's going to make available immediately the funding to cover the lights in the park. As they are removed, they'll be replaced. And so there were some at Mount Scott and also Woodstock, but there's an extended list on the Park and Rec's website. But it sounds like there won't be dark areas of the park for people to be feeling unsafe. So that's good. And then in the spring, upcoming events that they're having at Southeast Uplift are going to be backyard habitat and workshop. They're having an organizational development series surrounding budget, finance, and fundraising. And another one is Ask Me Anything Bylaws webinar with David Atkin, who is Center for Nonprofit Law. So they're going to announce those dates when they get them, but those would be good for people for a couple of reasons. And then just quickly, Sellwood on April 15th, they're doing a Decades dance party at their community center. It's $25, food, drink, and dance, dress up if you care to do so. Go party down to probably 80s and 90s music. And then Woodstock on May 13th, they're having a plant sale at their community center. And that's it.
Okay, very fine. Thank you so much, Kim. All right. Let me go through my other business points real fast. I'm going to be out of the country for 2 weeks starting next. I'm leaving on next Thursday and coming back on the night of the 27th. And I will, now we have elections coming up at the May meeting. So I need to post to the public that these elections are coming up. So I have learned how to schedule MailChimp and WordPress posts so that they'll post at the right time so we can notify the neighborhood. But then I'm inviting all of you who are on the board. I hope you will re-up. It's wonderful working with you. And so I'd love to see you again in the new fiscal year. So I was hoping to put some kind of a fancy election process in place, but we're not able to get Southeast Uplift to review it in time. So maybe next year, if I am still chair, then we'll tackle that, and we'll tackle it early so we can all talk about it and see whether we like the proposal and so on. So we're going to have the standard time-honored way of elections, which is on election night. We show up and we have our liaison from Southeast Uplift create a ballot, and we will be voting. I will ask each person who is applying for candidacy to say, what motivates you to serve on the board, which we're all used to doing now because we do that in our introductions. But if we have new people from the neighborhood, we'll ask them also so that we get an idea of who they are, and then we can vote. And then once we have the new board, then we vote on our officer positions. So Laura Lee, you have said that you are interested in continuing as secretary if nobody else begs for the job, right?
Yeah, that's yes. I'm happy to continue on. I also don't want to take this amazing opportunity away from somebody else who might want to run for secretary. So please tell your friends and consider running for secretary if you're up for the task. If there is no one else, I'm happy to do it for another year.
Okay, very fine. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So so the next time I see you, then it will be for our elections meeting. And then we have gotten good news about a fundraiser. This was something that we applied for early on before we even had our fundraiser Eureka Night. And this is the Sparrowhawk plant sale, which Chelsea Powers had carried out on behalf of BDNA, even after she was no longer chair. And we asked to be considered for a fall fundraising event in 2023, and we were awarded that. And so we've reached out to the partners that we had before, Master Gardeners, Black Futures Farm, and Learning Gardens Lab, and all three are interested. And so now we're working on choosing a suite of 3 days in October when we can all bring volunteers and participate in this plant sale. And so I'm just working on finalizing the dates now. We've signed an agreement, but this was a very nice effort because it was something we could do with our partners that helped them as well as us. And so we're very fortunate to be chosen again. And we have an ideal site for it. Pam, is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, well, just as treasurer, I'm always looking at the money angle. I mean, it does great things, but additionally, it was a major fundraiser for us last year. So Sparrowhawk provided 5,000 of the profits to pass through to us, and we divided that up amongst our partners, Learning Gardens Lab, Black Futures Farm, and the Master Gardeners. And Brentwood Darlington was left with $1,750 last year. So we're assuming that we will net something similar for this year. So things are looking pretty good, treasury-wise.
Okay, very fine. All right, yes, okay. And then one final comment I wanted to convey was last night Woodstock held a forum. I helped to facilitate. It was for the 3 candidates who are vying for county commissioner of District 3, our district. And they are Julia Brim Edwards, Anna Del Rocio, and Albert Kaufman. Albert serves on the Southeast Uplift Board right now, right? You know him, Kim, right? And the other 2 very experienced, knowledgeable, smart women. It's interesting to hear their presentations. They answered a series of questions. So Woodstock recorded the forum. So we're going to get from Anna Vike. So we'll get the video, or a way of getting to the video. And so I'll be sure to post that before I leave, so that everyone can join in the forum and hear these. Hear what the candidates have to say. All right, does anyone have any other business now?
Well, Stephanie, I know we're over time, but quickly, Gail,
Sure.
Can you remind us of the deadline for submitting ideas for opening acts for the concert in the park this July?
I think we have 2 more months. In fact, I think we have until July.
Okay, because I had 2 possibilities in mind.
Bring it.
One is, the Earl Heights Park grand opening is still slated for later this year. So I thought we might remind Portland Parks that this would be a good way to announce that grand opening, and maybe have some slides about how beautiful it's going to be, and
I like it.
People prime for that. And then honestly, the presentation that Anna Weichsel gave to TGM about her student studio work and envisioning open spaces in Brentwood Darlington was fabulous. And so she has a canned presentation, and everybody got really excited. And I think the timing might be good to elicit testimony from the broader Brentwood Darlington community before it goes to City Council and the Planning Commission. So think about that.
Awesome.
Okay, so you are saying that this could be like a tabling kind of thing at the movies in the park?
No, I'm thinking that there's going to be a screen for the movies, presumably.
Oh, I see.
Just project it.
I like it.
Oh, I see. I didn't understand that. And that sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, I love it.
And, whoever's chair can, introduce these opening acts.
Smart.
Pam, that is so good. I didn't understand earlier when you
yeah, that's amazing.
You emailed me, and thank you. I think that's a lovely idea.
Yes.
Oh, okay, exciting.
I love it. I second that. Go for it, Pam.
Okay, and then I am tasked, Gail, with writing to the supervisor there, who I know his name. I knew his name a moment ago, and now I don't. But
Parks and Rec.
Yeah, of the movies in the park.
No, once we get it solidified.
Well, I need to write to him. I mean, we talked with him and the young woman who I don't know why I'm blanking on their names, but I need to email and make a case for a reduction in the fee.
Oh yeah, I'm on that too.
Oh, you want to? Oh, you are willing to do that? Oh, fabulous. Okay, then. All right, I don't have to do it. All right, great. You do it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I for some reason I thought that was on my list. Okay, wonderful.
Pam and I'll talk. It's good.
Okay. All right. Anything else from anybody?
No, I'd just like to say hello, Vivian. She snuck in.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I've been so quiet tonight.
Yeah, hi, Vivian. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't stop to have you introduce yourself. We were streamlining through the through the agenda there. So Vivian, while you're here, I need to talk to you about an incident with the Brent Stock incubators that came up today. So I'll get in touch with you about that.
Yeah, Stephanie also mentioned to Vivian in the chat the
offer. Oh, please go ahead, tell her
about Pardon Gardens that she's participating in the Learning Gardens Lab space with her baby, and it came up in our discussion with Andy Nelson at Impact Northwest. They've got this beautiful early childhood education space. And I was figuring or envisioning that you might be shivering out there in the cold during inclement weather and would appreciate an indoor space. So I haven't taken it any further other than floating that idea with the executive director. So I guess, Stephanie, when you get back from Germany, we'll have to figure out how to nail that down.
Okay, fine. All right, very good.
Yeah. Do you want me to bring it up with the woman who organizes the gardens?
I would say yes, because you know, if she's not interested, then we don't need to take it forward. But I think it would be ideal.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, that would be a good option, at least for the winter months, especially. Yeah.
And thank you so much for mentioning that at our board retreat. Otherwise, I never would have known about this.
Yeah, it's, I don't know how word gets out, but even moms from St. John's will drive down to Brentwood Arlington for these. Really? So they're popular, but you know, I went almost a full year without knowing about it, even though I live 1 block north of the garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
You might want shelter for the high heat temps as well.
Yeah, I went, the last time I was there was 3 weeks ago, and it happened to be a really warm day, and we were in a greenhouse, and they ended up having to open all the sides, and then it got really cold, so then everything was closed up again. Temperature just fluctuates so much when you're in a greenhouse. So,
right, wood, yeah. Okay, very fine. Is there anything else? All right. It's been another long meeting. We always have lots to talk about and lots to accomplish. So this is great. But thank you for always hanging in here. And all right, so I will declare the meeting done. It's 8:44. Oh my God. Thank you all for all your contributions. I really appreciate all of you so much then. Okay. All right. Okay. Good night.
Great. Good night. Thank you.
Night.
Bye-bye. Okay, so I have to stop the recording. Okay.